Thank you, Deb. I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to Dominic Preece. He's the stunt coordinator and horse master for Outlander and has been with the show from the beginning. He says when he left school, he didn't really know what he wanted to do, but he had ridden horses since the age of 3. He got a summer job at a medieval jousting show, and that lasted for 6 summers. Then he decided he wanted to be an actor, and he got a place in a 3-year acting course in London. Acting turned out wasn't really for him.
No, I thought it was, but they didn't.
But the only thing he really excelled at was stage combat. And one of his tutors said, "Have you ever thought of being a stuntman?" No. After drama school, he was lucky to get the chance to be an extra riding horses for the film First Night. Talking to the stunt coordinator, it became clear there was a shortage of stunt performers in the UK that could ride. And there was definitely a gap in the market, so he stepped up and jumped in there. He spent the next 5 years training in various sports so he could join the British Stunt Register in 1997. He feels that he's been lucky. Thank you. Is the not working? Okay, we're going to have a little mic change here. This is very interesting, I have to say. So he's had a successful career as a stuntman in many major films over the next 15 years, including the James Bond and Harry Potter franchises, Game of Thrones, and many more. In 2013, he got the opportunity to be interviewed for stunt coordinator for a new TV series shot in Scotland. It was to be Horses and Swords, right up his alley. And the rest, as they say, is history. And he's had the pleasure and honor, he said that, to be stunt coordinator and horse master on Outlander ever since. So let's welcome Dominic Preece.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about your background. Did you do anything when you were a kid? Were you a physical kid? Would your mother worry about you when you left the house?
She worried about me continually. Yes, I wouldn't say I was a sporty kid, but not very good at sport, which was unfortunate. But I used to fall over a lot, and hence I think that was the beginning of it, really. I always ridden horses, always ridden. I'd like to be physical. Yeah, I was always climbing trees and falling out of them. I was the kid that could climb a tree but couldn't get back down again. So I was always having someone to come to rescue me, but usually in the end of the day I was just sort of rolling around and falling. Yeah, I think really looking back at it now, I never wanted to be a stuntman. All my friends that are stuntmen, it was their dream. I had no idea what I wanted to do, as I said. But I think what it was, I've always ridden horses, and when I left school, as I said, I went to, ironically, work in North Carolina for, I think, 6 months I was out there, working with horses, ending up by breaking my leg, not on a horse, I fell off a ladder. So I came back to the UK, and at this point, all my friends had gone to university, or they'd got jobs. There's nobody around, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I saw an advert in a local paper for a medieval jousting tournament. So that's what I did for 6 years, basically falling off horses for a living, and getting paid very, very little. But even then, I didn't want to be a stuntman. So thought I want to be an actor. So I went to a drama school, ALRA it was called, in London. And again, as in the introduction, you should be a stuntman. And I thought, that's not very, very nice. As I say, I thought I was going to be a good actor, but obviously not that good an actor. So that's how. So really, looking back at it, to answer the question in a very garbled way, yes, I've always wanted to be a stuntman. but I never knew it. Yeah.
So you just kind of fell into the
Literally
job.
Fell into it, yeah.
We got a lot of questions from you guys, and so I'm going to try to incorporate some of those. Mindy, and I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Staake, asked, what are the general requirements for being a stuntman?
For the British Stunt Register, you have to train in 6 so-called dangerous sports, as it were, like hang gliding or rock climbing. and things like you have to. When I did it, it's changed a little bit now because it's quite a while ago when I got on. You had to reach a sort of examiner standard or teaching standard. My 6 were horse riding, sword fighting, hang gliding, swimming, diving, and trampolining. So those are my 6 dangerous sports.
It's interesting.
And
that
I can say, hang gliding, I have never hang glided since. And I never will.
That's funny. Janice Schmidt asked, what was your first stunt?
My first official stunt was on Tomorrow Never Dies, I think it was, as James Bond, in the water, getting shot by a machine gun. That was the very first stunt I did on for film or TV. Yeah.
Very good. Tell us about some of the other movies and shows you've worked on. I know you've been in Bond.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been very lucky, really. I've done a lot of big movies, and not all of them that good. But I think the first one was Tomorrow Never Dies, and then I worked on Star Wars Episode 1, which is the one with Jar Jar Binks, if anyone remembers. Yeah, Jar Jar Binks and me. So that was, and then, but through that, I met a stunt coordinator on that, a fellow called Nick Gillard, and he gave me my first sort of big break, and I doubled Johnny Depp on a film called Sleepy Hollow. So that was my first big sort of like doubling the lead, and that was a great film to work on. So again, horses. I couldn't get away from horses. So horses, and that was my first big sort of job, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you have done a fair amount of driving in the films.
Yeah, I did driving and crashing. Yeah, not always on purpose either. But yeah, I've been very lucky. I've done the last. In fact, I haven't done the last Bond, but I've done all of Daniel Craig's Bond films. I think that's me. Keep still. So I sort of specialise in doing the opening sequences. For example, when we did Quantum of Solace, I spent 10 weeks in Italy. Chasing. In fact, I was actually one firing the gun out of the Alfa Romeo, chasing the Aston Martin around Carrera in Italy. That was a great time. 10 weeks of that, and again in the one after that, which I think was Skyfall. We were in Turkey again for about 10 weeks, just driving cars, crashing cars, jumping out of the way of cars. You know, generally having a great time. Being a child. Oh, thank you. Just get off now. Okay.
Have you taken any specialty courses for driving?
Not really in driving, no. I think the thing about driving is you gain by experience. It's, you know, and you get it on set. In fact, the best stunt guys I know are the ones who've got a little bit of a dubious past and have maybe not always been driving their car that they owned. And getting chased by the police. So I think I wouldn't call myself a great driver. I'm a utility driver. You know, if you say drive over there to smash into that car, I can do that. If you can say drive over there really fast and don't smash into that car, probably not the best person to ask. But driving is a great thing. The only problem about driving is everybody on a film set can drive, and so they all think I can do that better than you. So you've always got that look, and that's why I like horses better, because not many people on the horse set, on the set can ride, and no matter what you do on a horse, they think, oh, he's great, isn't he? But you're not that good. But with the car, you're always worried that people are looking at you thinking, well, I'd have done it much better than that. But I've had the opportunity. I mean, I'd say driving a car, you know, in the mountains of Italy and in Turkey and through the Medinas in Turkey, in Istanbul, it's been great fun. In fact, thinking back now, actually, I did a film called Da Vinci Code. And I was driving the car. Again, they said to me, do you speak French? And I said, may we, obviously. And got a part, because apparently I look quite French. So I got a part as driving, as a stunt driver for the not for Tom Hanks, but for the guy's name, Jean Reno, I think his name. So that was me, and we drove around spent a couple of nights just driving around the Louvre in around the pyramid, glass pyramid there. I had a great time, but what it was a little bit, it was quite funny, is because I was the only English stuntman on that day. All the rest were French, and they've got René Julian is a fantastic French car driver. He specialises. I think he even did the one you're talking about, the one in Disney World over here. Oh. I think he started that, all the live shows. And it's a very simple night. All I had to do was drive in procession, follow the rest of the stunt drivers driving their cars. And all I could understand was basically premier position, first position, and camion rouge, red lorry. So all I could, when they kept shouting, reset, reset, I didn't understand it. All I could hear was camion rouge, premier position. Don't quite understand what you're talking about, but I'll follow the rest of you. And the thing about the French, I'm not saying they're bad drivers, but they're very erratic. And what they love to do is they'll drive fantastically in the actual shot, and when they say reset, it's like saying ready, steady, go, because they just go back to number one positions as fast as they can. And then you don't really understand anything what they're doing, and you're stuck in that. It was like wacky races, it really was, but it was good fun. But yeah, I've done a lot of driving, but not the real top stuff.
Right. So it sounds like you gravitated toward the horse end, not the horse's end, but the horse end of stunts.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any other specific specialties?
I mean, falling over. I get asked this question a lot. I mean, they say, "Oh, you're very brave." No, it's not. It's something you're trained to do, and you train by. I was trained when I did 6 years doing a medieval jousting tournament. I had to fall off a horse, 6 times a day, 7 days a week, and you learn to do it properly, so you don't end up, in A&E or ER. So it's something, but I think it's something you learn on the job. You learn to look after yourself. Your body looks after itself. A great stunt friend of mine said that to me. I was a bit concerned about how to do some sort of fall out a window, I think it was. And I was saying, "Oh, shall I go on that side? Shall I got my left shoulder, shall I go my right shoulder, shall I push him in right?" And he said, just let your brain sort it out. It doesn't, it's not going to suddenly go, "I'm switching off now." Your brain keeps your body safe, and that's in life, I think, really. But obviously, if you're jumping out through a window, if you did it by accident, then the likelihood is you might hurt yourself. But if you know you're going to jump out that window, you've already processed everything, what you're going to do when you land and how you roll and tuck and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I'm still learning. Luckily, I've stopped now because I was breaking myself quite a bit. But you never stop learning.
You see a lot of, I guess I'm thinking about kids when my sons were teenagers, and they did a lot of running up walls and jumping up onto the roofs of the school, and the kids all got in trouble, and with their parents and with the school. But I think a lot of kids look at stunt people and they think, I could do that. Mm-hmm. And in my area, up in northern Illinois, for many years, there was a kids' Wild West town, it was called. My husband and I both did some non-performing work for them. But they had a stunt show, and they would hire local teenagers. What kind of advice would you give kids who wanted to try that?
Well, nowadays, I can unfortunately talk from the UK, because we do have this, I think it's a very similar thing in the States as well. I know it's exactly the same in Canada, but we have this, what we call the stunt register. And also we have, our union is Equity, I think over here it's SAG. So Equity have a list of criteria and of what you need to get and where to go. I always always say, if you want to become a stunt man now, or stunt girl, just do the sports that you love, and you do it from an early age. But don't worry, don't think, oh, I've got to do 6 sports. Specialize, just do one that you enjoy. You can always come back to the other, to the ones. Because sometimes I find it very hang gliding. I find that very hard. Gravity did the rest of it, but and also trampolining. I'm not a gymnast. So these are things I've always ridden horses, but now I think, as long as it's a great industry to get into. I was told before I got on, an actor friend of mine gave me the number of his stunt coordinator, and he did. This is from on. You probably don't remember it over here, but there was a TV series called Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, not Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood of Sherwood. It was quite big in the UK, and he gave me his stunt coordinator's number, and I remember to this day ringing this guy up saying, been given your number by a friend of yours. I want to be a stuntman. And I remember he exactly what he said. He said, don't bother, because you won't. It's too expensive, and you won't get any work when you get there. And I thought, great, thanks very much. And to be honest, I did. I thought, well, that's that avenue closed. I won't do that. But I do get a lot of kids come up to me and say, I want to be a stuntman, and I'm never going to turn around, because it is hard to get the qualifications, and it is hard to get the contacts, but it's a brilliant job, and I've had a fantastic time doing it. So and I think anyone could do it if you've got the sort of inclination and dedication to do it. It's a great. I recommend it to anybody, any young kid. And also that thing you talk about is parkour, but in the stunt world it's called running and jumping.
Yeah,
parkour.
right.
Yeah, parkour. Yeah, that's a bit of a sore point with us. When this parkour, so I'm not sure maybe knows what it is. It's a parkour. So I don't know what it actually means in French, but it's a thing that suddenly all these kids are running, jumping off high buildings, and then we did this one job. I can't remember what, and they said we're bringing the parkour boys in. And we thought, oh great, fantastic. They'll show us how to do it all properly, And they turned up and they said, well, we can't jump down there without a mat. We can't do this without a mat. We can't do that. And we thought, well, that's what we've been doing for years. But, we didn't call it parkour. We just called it running and jumping. I'm sorry if anybody likes parkour. It's a brilliant thing. And there are some very talented kids out there. But it is running and jumping.
Yeah. Has doing stunts, becoming a stuntman, has it gotten any more regulated since you've been doing it? Or is there more or less oversight?
It's changed a lot. Health and safety has definitely got a very large shadow over us, understandably, and for good reason. But when I first started, it was a little, I wouldn't say it was more dangerous, but there was an element of well, we can do anything. Now, I mean, I've had two conversations. On Outlander, for example, we had a comment, you probably remember it, the print shop, when that got burnt down. Jamie has to jump down off, I'm looking at this thing, probably that height of that balcony over there, a little bit lower, and obviously you've got a stunt guy to do it. And then I remember this guy said, well, I think it was the director, and I said, well, what we'll do with Sam, we'll have Sam jump over the balustrade there and land on a platform. Okay, and then we'll get a stunt guy to sort of jump from the flat platform onto the floor. And I said, we'll do it for about 10 foot. I don't do it any more than 10 foot, because after that you're looking at broken ankles and stuff. And the guy said, yeah, but he's a stunt man. I said, yeah, but he's a human. And I think that's the problem you get. A lot of people tend to think, stuntmen are, but they're not. They're just human. We're just stupid and we'll do things. But we break. But yeah, no, yeah. But having said that, I say health and safety has played a big part over the last few years, and the regulations are hard. And now being a stunt coordinator, I spend most of my time doing risk assessments, filling in forms and, mission statements, and how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that. And sometimes it's like, you can't explain how you're going to fall off a horse, apart from you're going to fall off a horse. So, and they say, what safety do you put in? Well, there's no safety there. You just got to hope you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But other things, like particularly with cars and all the stuff we do with wires and stuff like that, obviously we've got to be so careful now and make sure everything's in place. If you hurt yourself badly, a stunt's gone wrong. It's not. You should never injure yourself as a stuntman. Very badly. Bruises, yes. The odd sprained ankle or whatever. But if you find yourself in hospital, obviously it's gone very wrong. Yeah. And you shouldn't. In the planning stages, you should make sure that that won't happen.
I think most famously, we've heard a lot in the last couple of years about Tom Cruise getting injured doing Mission Impossible stunts.
Yeah.
And I know you haven't worked on those, and it's you weren't there, but
well, I was there just before that. Yeah.
And so, would you say that in your professional opinion, if the star of a show gets hurt in something like that, there was a lack of planning?
No.
Or a lack of, in overabundance of confidence
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
star had in himself?
That wasn't a star getting injured, that was a producer getting injured. Because he produces the shows.
Right.
He can do whatever he wants. Bless him. And he's an amazing stuntman. I wouldn't call him an actor, I'd call him a stuntman. He's an amazing stuntman. But if I turned around and said, Sam, you're going to do the, then I'd have all the production on me saying, no, hang on a minute. But when you've got the top producer saying, oh, I fancy hanging out of a plane for a laugh. Well, good play, fair play to him. The only thing I can say is he's putting somebody out of a job. But, he is, an anomaly, really. I mean, he's an amazing stuntman, but also very rich and can do whatever he wants. But I mean, it's a night, because obviously, coming back to horses and stuff like that, the director wants to see the actor's face. You don't want to see a double, no matter how good they are. They're usually quite dodgy doubles anyway. But you want to see the actor's face. So you have this. Sometimes, it'd be great if I could turn around and say, well, we'll just have the actor doing his speech, and then we'll swap him out for a double, and then he can ride off. But then it doesn't work. They want to see the actor's face. So you do have to put them in, but they are very well trained for that as well. And for example, if we did have to do a stunt where we see the actor's face on a motorbike or whatever, they'd be highly trained beforehand. They'd be having weeks and weeks and weeks of hanging out of helicopters and planes. Well, I'm not sure about Tom, but he can walk on water, can't he?
Yeah. Well, he thinks he can.
Exactly.
So.
He's very small, by the way. I'm not very tall, but we did the first Mission Impossible, and it was when he was with Nicole Kidman, and it was being filmed in Pinewood, and I lived quite close, and we had some horses, and the stunt coordinator said, can you bring a horse round, a pony round, so we can have Nicole and Tom's kid take them for a pony ride around the studios. So my boss said, oh yeah. So I turned up with this little Shetland pony. And I remember just walking around with Tom Cruise thinking, yeah, I'm a good double for you, because you're the same height as me. In fact, a little bit small. But he's a lovely guy, yeah, really nice. But yeah, that's what I'd say that. I met Tom Cruise.
There would definitely be a perk if you were, interested in meeting celebrities.
Yes, it would, yes.
But I'm sure you've met
a few.
Right,
yeah.
Right. We're going
Got a story about Brad Pitt, but I'll save that for another time. I was working on a film called Spy Game, and it was Robert Redford and Brad Pitt, great cast. And one of my jobs was Brad Pitt plays this Navy SEAL, I think it was, and he's on a cliff top with his mates about to shoot somebody or something, I can't remember. But we had to be safety. So me and my friend Cece were behind them on the cliff edge. And our job was to stop them from jumping off. Why would they jump off? I don't know. But that was our job. So we had Brad Pitt lying down there and his mate, and I was probably about a foot away from Brad's backside. And Brad did something that naturally happens. And so I can say that, Brad Pitt farted in my face.
Now that would be a downfall. Okay. We're going to let one or two of you get in on this. So how many do you think we could do? One or two?
Two. We can do two, yeah. I'll do
We
two.
need a couple of volunteers to come up here and learn something from Don. Who would like to do it? Okay, we've got one, sorry.
We're going to bring the horse on now, so, yeah.
We've got
Widowmaker.
someone all the way over there in a black shirt. There's one. And let's get somebody from over here. Okay, and we've got the birthday girl, Melanie Pauls, is going to come up. Do we need to have them sign releases?
Oh, yes. Definitely, yeah. I hope these are the two wealthy ones we mentioned about. Yeah. Right, so this is where we're going to sing now. Okay. What it is, I think what I'm going to demonstrate is something quite simple. In fact, I'm not sure.
We got Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Cantlin, and Melanie Paul.
Melanie, nice to meet you. Dominic, nice to meet you. One of the things we do on the show a lot at Outland is slapping. There's a lot of slapping going on. And I remember the first time Kat slapped Graham McTavish. And it was the first season. And the director at the time, and I was quite new, at this point, I was sort of finding my feet. I didn't know it was my place to sort of to step in. But this director wanted Kat to hit Graham. And I said, well, it won't work because you naturally, unless you knock him out, it's not going to look right. And this director was, no, we're going to do it for real because it doesn't, it looks great. Anyway, it looked rubbish because Kat was frightened, and Graham was a little bit like that, and it was one of those ones. And I said, no, let's not do, that's not how you slap on TV and film. It's all to do with camera angles and stuff. So what you don't, and so what I'm going to do now with Katie and Melanie is demonstrate how to slap each other. Looking at them, this isn't the first time they've done this, but...
Why don't we move the chairs out of the way and we'll let you guys come up to the front.
Yes, come up here. We won't do anything too dramatic.
There we go.
He says we could fall off here, now I can show you how to fall. So basically, obviously a slap is, as you can imagine, is like that. Now, what Kat was told to do is to slap, but then she's like this, and it doesn't, it doesn't work, and it hurts. So all it is reactions and also camera angles. So if you imagine I'm going to slap you across that way. As soon as I go just look that way. That's perfect. And again, look that way. Now, if I turn now, you behind me, really, after 3, 2, 1, and that looks like I've hit her. And it hurt. There you go. Same with the backhand. 3, 2, 1, back the other way. See, look the other way. That's clever, you see. I've done this before, and they always look the wrong way. But that's really good. And that's simple. Let's have you can do it to yourselves now. So, Katie, as you're experienced to getting slapped, you can be the slappee now. Okay. So with Melanie, I'll just show you again. So all it is, as that comes out, you look that way. No, that way. No, that way. Either way. I'll tell you what. Melanie, you can be the slappee. Katie, you can be the reactor. All right, so here we go. So what I want you to do is... No, sorry, I'm trained. Not getting paid, though, so I won't be falling down. So, if you come over here, Melanie, that's it. That's lovely. And you just think, we'll do a backhand. Sometimes it's easier. That's it. Lovely.
If you guys would move
Ready?
back a little
And
further.
boom. Perfect. Now, that was a bit close. Now, what we need to do is I'm going to push you back here. There's no way you can hit her now, but so you can go as hard as you want. Okay? 3, 2, 1, boom. Fantastic. And what we'll do is we'll go over this side so this side can see. Watch the fire. It's very hot. And again, if you stand there for me, Katie, this perfect. And then you Melanie there. Let's see. Hang on, let's see what this looks like. Come that way a bit. Perfect. Now we can't see Katie at all. Oh well, this will work really well. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, you're a bit close there, but that's good. And let's go for a forehand and 3. That's 3 the other way. I thought that's it. 3, 2, 1. Action. Perfect. Thank you very much. A round of applause. We'll sign you up. Amazing. Well done. That's much better than Kat did it.
She even moves furniture. Thank you. So.
Nice. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. That was fun. Okay, now we're going to turn to why we are all here. And as much as we love you, Deb probably wouldn't have asked you, I had nothing to do with it, if you weren't on Outlander.
No.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get contacted for Outlander?
Basically, it was the first, he's left now, bless him, but the producer was a fellow called David Brown, and he knew. I was at the time. First, I was the assistant coordinator on a film called Guardians of the Galaxy, and and I was working for a guy called Steve Dent, who was a coordinator on that, but he also supplies horses. So he he knew David Brown, and I think they met each other at Pinewood Studios or somewhere, and they just said, "Oh, God, I've got this little TV show." Well, he didn't say little. I've got this TV show starting in Scotland. We'd like you to supply the horses, and also would you be the stunt coordinator? And at the time, Steve was quite busy working on Marvel movies and stuff. He said, "Well, why don't you go there and coordinate it? It's just a little show in Scotland." And I thought, well, great. And, 'cause this is one of my first. Although I've been assisting coordinator for quite a while and done a few jobs, this was my first sort of as full-time as a stunt coordinator. So I thought, great. So there I found myself up in Scotland, 2013, on this little show. It never looked back, really. I mean, it was the first season was a long season, 13 months we filmed for.
Wow.
And it was the hardest one of all the seasons I've done. But it was probably the most rewarding one, to be fair. It was a learning curve for me, it was a learning curve for all the actors, it was their first sort of time on it as well, and there's a lot of new faces and stuff. But I think it was, a really good experience.
And you were dealing with a lot of people, I'm thinking of our two principals, who hadn't really, Katrina was new as an actress, and Sam had done a fair amount of smaller things. I mean, he had been Batman, but that was a stage show and handled a little differently. So you were dealing with a lot of actors who didn't have a lot of experience, especially in a show that had a lot of action.
Yeah, and I think that helped as well, because you had, you can get actors, very really good actors, but very experienced actors can be a little bit jaded and a little bit sort of, not so enthusiastic. But these guys were so enthusiastic, and they threw themselves into everything. I mean, Kat, bless her, she spent the whole of the first season in a nightie, barefoot, in the rain in Scotland. And none of that was what you see, what she did. I hardly used a stunt double at all. She did it all. I mean, I remember going through, one of the scenes is her going through a river, a stream. And we film it in a place called Cumbernauld in Scotland. The studios is there. It's not the nicest area in the world. But we filmed this particular scene in the local park. And I remember I spent the first an hour going through this riverbed, taking out all the shopping trolleys, broken bottles, all sorts of things like that. And I said, really, Kat, you don't have to do this, because this is. She said, I don't care. She said, I want to do it. And she did it, and luckily I think I removed most of the stuff. But she was so, gung-ho and in for it, and everything she did was, with great gusto and really beyond the call, I think, really. I don't think she'd do it now. But then, why should she do it now? She doesn't need to do it now. And she didn't need to do it then, really, but she was more than happy to do it. And the same with Sam. Sam, he came to it, again, wanting to learn everything he could. And he loves his action. He loves his sword fighting.
He's very physical.
He's steady on. Yeah, he is. No, he is. But for me, it's a dream. People, because I'd have to show him a fight once, and he's learnt it, and he can go away and make it look much better than I could. So for me, it's a dream.
Season 1 also had, I think, probably the most scenes with horses of what we've seen so far.
We did. We had all the actors on horses. I think it was 9 at one point, and we spent the whole. I think it was episode 3. I remember it. Just going from collecting the rents they were, and I had these actors on who a lot of them had never ridden a horse before. I know you've had Grant O'Rourke here before. Yeah, never ridden a horse before. And I don't think he'd want to ride a horse again, to be honest. But we had 5 weeks, to be honest, with the main cast before, just getting them on the horses every day, sometimes twice a day. Just so it became not natural to them, but a lot easier for them. But they really, again, it was 50% actors, 50% good horses, because I think they did really well. The actors did, but you still have to have a good horse underneath you.
Well, what makes a good horse for film?
They've got to be very quiet and be happy to be bored. I mean, because I think it was can't remember his name, an actor who said, actors don't get paid for acting, they get paid for waiting. And that's what, particularly that horse, they could be, I think I was discussing to you earlier, it's great having a shot of Sam riding to River Run on his horse. That looks amazing. But that's not very often, we do that, but a lot of the time they're tied up in the background, they're stood in the background, they're standing in the background while the actors are going pages and pages of, and the horses stand there. And what happens, you'll find with a lot of horses, like any animal, they get bored. And when they get bored, they get fidgety. Now, film horses don't get bored. Well, they are permanently bored, I think, but they don't fidget. And that's the best thing about it. That's why I call them my horses. They're not my horses, but I feel like they're my horses. I'm very proud of them, really, because that's what they do. That's their job.
And as you and I talked about earlier, horses are still animals, and they do still have their instincts to do things. And you have had some, you didn't really classify it as arguments, but kind of I told you so moments.
I did, yeah. I think with the first, again, season 1, we did this scene, and we went through a recce, which is weeks before we were going to film it, on this very windy hill in Scotland, which isn't narrowing it down very much, because they're all windy. But this particular windy hill in Scotland, and I went on the recce there, and the director said, I want them to all stand in a line and do this speech looking in that direction. And at the time, the wind was blowing a gale, and I said, that's fine, but if the wind's doing what it is doing today, you'll not get that shot. And he said, why not? I said, because the horses won't do it. Why won't the horses do it? It's because they'll turn their backsides into the wind, because that's what animals do. And I know that, and I thought everybody knew that, but obviously this director didn't know that. But even the production was there, the producer was going, really? Why? I said, well, can't the actors make them face into the wind? I said, if you're a really good rider, you can make them face into the wind, but they won't be happy, and they'll try and turn. And they said, well, and you could see their faces go, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I said, well, that's fine, as long as you know on the day. Anyway, the day came, and of course, it was blowing a gale. And we've been running against time. I think this was the last shot, and it was a beautiful shot the director wanted. And he said, they're all going to look that way. And I said, it won't happen. And he said, don't be stupid. I want to look that way. And he got quite adamant that he wanted them to face that way. And of course, I said, okay. And the horses all rode up there perfectly. The actors rode them perfectly. They all stood in a lovely line, and they all turned round. And the director looked at me and said, I should have listened to you, shouldn't I? And I said, well, I didn't want to say anything. But then again, since that day now, I can say anything now, and they listen to me, anything at all. And they say, that horse can't climb that ladder. It can climb a ladder, they believe me. That was, it was a good thing, because it was quite early on in the season as well, and they suddenly realised, actually, this guy knows what he's talking about. About horses, that is, not much else. But.
What else have you had to really teach, let's not say the actors, but the directors, the cameramen, the producers, about what your stunt people and their actors can and can't do?
Well, I mean, earlier what I said about the guy jumping off the thing, they still break. I mean, I think a lot of times you've got to explain to people that, stuntmen are stuntmen. They're humans. They're not indestructible. But it's just that crossover they want, And as I say, with Sam, he can do anything really. I mean, I sound like I should be married to him, but he's. I mean, I don't want to big him up too much, but he's very good. And as Tobias was as well. Tobias in the first season, he was. Again, I've been blessed with actors that listen and are very good at physical stuff. Probably rubbish actors, I don't know, but they're fantastic at the physical stuff. But you do have to, but there are limitations. And there are times when I've been on a recce and they've said, oh, we want them to climb up here. And I said, well, they're all in period footwear. It's not that easy, and it's not like they're going to, I've been making the Greens department cut stairs in banks and stuff like that, just so they can walk up. And we see it, and it's a 10-second shot. You don't even see it. But I've spent hours with people making steps there so they can walk up there looking like they're not struggling and stuff like that. Because they do, it's tricky. In Scotland, it does rain a lot. And even when we're supposed to be in America, it rains a lot in Scotland, pretending to be America. So we have to deal with that a lot. And, some simple things. I turn up on Reckitt's and they go, oh, obviously we're going to run down. I said, you can't run down there because it's rocky. And they said, well, they're not going to. I said, of course they're not going to break their ankle, but what if they do? And they can't be in the next day. And then you're shouting at me saying, why didn't you let them run down there? So then I said, well, I'll tell you what, let's get a double to do that, because it's nothing that the actor can't do, but if the actor did trip over and twist his ankle, then he can't act the next day. If a stuntman twists his ankle, A, he won't tell anybody, and B, he doesn't have to do a 6-page scene the next day. So that's the things you sort of, you learn through experience, just to say, look, if they don't need to do it, they don't have to do it. And what I was saying about Kat earlier on, in the first season, she wanted to do everything. Sam wanted to do everything. I think, a good actor when they go, I tell you what, I'll let my double do that, because they know they could do it. Tom Cruise can hang out of a plane. They can do that. But why, but then, they think, do you know what, I'd rather be warm in my trailer or getting wrapped early. I know what I'd prefer to do, but let's let the stunt double do it. And also, it's a great job for someone. They know, the actors know how, they get a good rapport with the stunt doubles. They know how much they enjoy it as well. And to take that away from them, it's like a bit like saying, oh, I'm not going to let you have your fun today. And we let them do, the actors do as much as possible. And they do, they can, and they're very capable. But there's a limit where, and a lot of it's not so much to do with danger, it's to do with time and fatigue. So, we don't want to, that's when accidents happen, when they're tired. And it's particularly if you've spent all day doing, pages and pages on a scene, and the last thing you've got to do is concentrate on where to put your feet, because you might slip over.
How many people are on your stunt team or your horse team?
On the stunt team, it's just me. But I bring people in, obviously. Things like Battle of Alamance and stuff, I'll have about 10 stuntmen with me for about 2 weeks rehearsing and stuff. But on the horse front, I have 4 people with me all the time. We have 8 horses on Outlander full time. And what we have is apart from Sam's horse, which is grey, the rest are all bays or browns and blacks. And that's for a reason, it's because they play every part going. So although we've only got 8 horses, we could have a scene with 20 horses in it, but they'll be the same horses. When we can bring other horses up sometimes. In fact, for example, we did Culloden, we brought, I think, 20 horses up and things like that. But normally, we just have a team of 8 horses, 4 horse wranglers, I suppose you call them over here, and myself as a horse master.
The one horse that, and I know nothing about horses, I'm sure a lot of you do know a lot about horses, and I'm sure you've looked at movies and TV shows and thought, that's not that kind of horse, or I wouldn't have used that, or there's something, that's not quite right about that. Do you have to kind of fight that? Do the producers ever say, we really want this kind of horse in there, and you have to say, but that horse doesn't do that, that kind of horse isn't made for this? Or
I think we did that, obviously, in season 1, I think, I've forgotten the horse's name now, but he was supposed to be Chestnut, Sam's horse, and he was, a much bigger part in the books than he actually was in the TV program, and that's practicality in a way, a little bit. We didn't have a chestnut horse that was good enough, because Sam's tall. He's 6'3". We couldn't put him on a small horse because he'd look silly. And in fact, I remember having a letter through production from someone who loved the books and lived in the States, actually, and they sent it to me. I was reading it, and it was very, very complimentary until halfway, and all of a sudden it said, why on earth are you not using Highland ponies? And for that reason, if you put Sam Hewen on a Highland pony, you know why we're not using Highland ponies, because he would look ridiculous. Yes, and so we use horses that I think we use a lot of Friesians. I'm not sure everybody knows that. The breeds of the black horses, the Duncan's horses, are Friesian, and Sam's horse in the first season was a Friesian cross. They're great horses. They've got great temperament, and they look good, but they behave themselves, which is an ideal film horse. Yeah, I mean, Kat, she was supposed to have I think in the book again, she picks a fat mare out of the stables to escape. But she has a fat gelding because we don't have any mares. So we changed things, and I think, for practical reasons and for safety reasons as well.
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
The only horse I remember being as someone who, being as someone for whom horses have not been important to me, is the one scene in season 1 where Dougal rides the horse toward the British line, and he's on a huge, as far as I can tell, white horse. Was that horse chosen specifically for his looks, or?
I mean, we chose that horse for Graham because obviously it's a big horse, and Graham is a tall guy. And also Graham was probably one of the better riders because he'd been done quite a lot beforehand. And that horse wasn't he's a very easy horse, but he wasn't, I'd say, the best, the easiest horse to ride. But Graham and him had a great, I was thinking Lambert, the name of the horse just came to me then, Lambert the horse, but had a great relationship. In fact, so that scene you're saying there, when he lets go of the reins and does that was Graham. That wasn't me going, oh, I've got a great idea, Graham. I was going, oh my God, Graham, no. But he did that on the and that horse just knew. He behaved himself so well. And then we put the double on, and then who didn't have a good relationship with Lambert, he did exactly the same thing, and Lambert went. So I mean that's that's a beauty. That's relationships. You get these with horses and stuff like. I know I've been with horses all my life. And I can get on a horse, and the horse doesn't like me. I don't like him, and we just don't get on. But at the same time, you get that lovely relationship with a horse, and any animal. But but they have such a short time. But yes, I'd say Graham and Lambert, Sam and Pinocchio, Cat and Travis. These are all relationships that will last a long time. But that was a great. I remember that scene. I was very proud of that scene because I was proud of the horse. And we had him standing in the bog, and they wanted to fire a paintball pellets around his feet. And I thought that's fine, but let's just rehearse it. And we did it. He didn't move, and he didn't move. They make a noise, so it's not like it's quite. Lambert didn't care less. He's quite happy with that at all. But a leaf falls off a tree. You go, oh, what's that? Horses are strange things. My horses can put up with explosions. They can put up with being stood in the rain. They can put up with getting shot at with paintballs all the time. But then there's one day that they wake up and they go, do you know what? I'm not in a good mood today, and there's nothing you can do about it.
On the way here yesterday, I was riding with my friend Allison, who's right down front. And she knows a little bit about horses, and her daughter Emma rides and works with therapy horses and that kind of thing. So Allison was telling me that Emma texted her that her horse was afraid of a duck. And that horses are afraid of two things that move and things that don't. Mm-hmm. So that's about the extent of what I know about horses. Well, that's
true. That is perfectly true, yeah. Yeah, a horse can one day see a rock, and that is a monster to that horse. And no matter what you do, I remember spending, when I was 19, living in North Carolina, I was working on a ranch there, and then Cleveland Bays, which is an English breed, and I had this big stallion there, and I turned up in North Carolina from a very small village in England, thinking I was obsessed with moving to the States. And when I got to North Carolina, it was a big culture shock because this was in 85, 86. And I remember turning up to this beautiful ranch, and this girl said, "Oh, show me around." And so, by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow. And I was suddenly, what do you mean leaving? And I was the only person on this ranch I had about 30 horses, and I didn't see people for weeks on end, apart from going past in a car. I used to wave them down and everything. But me and this horse, I can't remember the horse's name now, Jack, a lovely horse. But I had a running battle with Jack, you'll know this, and it was just riding through this trailway in North Carolina, and there was this big boulder in the middle of this forest. And every day, me and Jack had a misunderstanding. And he wouldn't go anywhere near this rock, and he was doing everything he could possibly do to get me off. And all I wanted to do is ride him up, so he put his nose on the rock. And once he put his nose on the rock, that rock wasn't a monster anymore, it was a rock. But every day I did that, and every day it was a monster again. And it was just a game for me. And I suddenly realized I'm the only person within 50 miles. And if Jack, who's quite capable of getting me off, and I fall and hurt myself, I'm stuck here and only got myself to blame. So, but yeah, horses are, I love them. I love them to bits, but they are a law unto themselves.
Have you appeared on screen in Outlander?
Do you know what? No, and that's for reason. Well, that's a lie. My legs were Tobias's legs in kicking somebody in the 1940s. That's not a Susan.
And we all know that scene.
Yes, that was yeah. And then I've also been, but no, a hand. But I don't want to be. Maybe in the end. I don't know if I'm still around or they still ask me back. Maybe then. But no, I don't know. It's one of those things. I think it would ruin the magic for me. I don't know. And also, I don't look very good in the kilt.
Kind of backtracking a little bit, you talked about stunt doubles. Do Katrina and Sam have their own stunt doubles, or?
No, well, the way it works in the UK is Sam's got a guy. I use about 3 guys because Outlander isn't really a stunty show. I can't get people up there for a length of time, and what happens? A lot of people are on a core on something. So, the stunt double we had last week isn't available next week. So, but yeah, they have their own. Sam's probably had about a handful of about 3 or 4 over the seasons, and Kat is again the same. In fact, I can't remember her last double. Yes, I've got a great girl at the moment. I've used her for the last couple of seasons, and she loves the show. As I was saying to Erin, what's funny about Outlander, it's not that well known in the UK, but and so the stunt guys all say, "Oh, I've got to work on Outlander because my wife loves it." So and what's happened because of the pandemic, people have sat at home watching box sets, and suddenly it's got a whole new audience now. So everybody is getting on board. It's taken them a while, but they're getting on board. But I say everybody wants to be on it because they love it, or their wives love it. So I get a lot of stunt guys ringing me up and saying, "Oh, can I come on Outlander this year?" Because why is that? Oh, it's just because the wife wants me. So I'm very lucky in that respect. Yeah.
And you know one guy who?
I do. Yes, I mean, there's a guy called Bobby Hansen, and he is a very well-known in the industry stunt coordinator in this country, as well as the UK. He's Chris Hemsworth's official stunt double. He goes everywhere. You've probably seen him actually. If you see Chris Hemsworth, you'll see Bobby Hansen. He's there. They socialise together, do everything together. So he's a massive. And I've known him for a long time as well. But he is just flown. He's a very annoyingly good stuntman. But he loves Outlander. And he's also 6'2". He's blonde, he's muscly, and he's desperate to double Sam on Outlander. And I told this to Sam the other day, and he had a great fun. I said, "Oh, Chris Hemsworth wants to double me. Wants to double." So yes, he wants to. But unfortunately, he hasn't managed to do it yet because he's so busy. But he keeps ringing me up and saying, "Look, can I just come and just do anything? Anything. I don't mind what it is." I said, "I promise you, I will get you on. The probably most famous stuntman at the moment in the world wants to be Sam Hewen on Outlander." But he said, even if it's not Sam, if it's just like somebody in the background, I'm happy with that. It's like. So watch this space. So hopefully this season maybe.
Lynn Waters wanted to know which job was harder to do, teaching the guests to ride and handle their horses, or teaching them sword fighting. Now, did you do that, or was that?
That was me, I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm a man of many talents. Yeah, master of none. Riding. There's 2 brains involved there, and one of them is not very clever, and then they got the horse. You can't teach. You can't teach an actor to ride who's never ridden, because of the guys we had at the very beginning, we had time. I wouldn't call any of them riders, but they are good actors that can ride. But what we do, because of the constraints of Outlander, we've got a very busy schedule. So sometimes I get guys in, actors who have just been cast on Wednesday and have to ride on Thursday. So I say, well, let me have them for half an hour. It's no point having them for any more than that because they won't learn anything, but at least they'll get on a horse and learn. And the hardest thing is just to teach them all, is to get on and get off. And they always come up to me and they say, look, I'm not a very good rider, I can't ride. I said, well, I'm not going to teach you to ride, I'm going to teach you to look good. And that's all I can do. And luckily we have good horses, and we have good people around as well, because I don't always teach them. I haven't got time. At the moment, I don't teach them at all. I haven't got time. But we have some a great team around me, and we just get them to sort of look good on a horse. Walking, brilliant. Steering, and then cantering or running, as you call it. We never trot a horse because that's a disaster. But we get them to get on and get off. Sometimes, and if they can canter a couple of strides into a stop mark, brilliant. But as I was saying to you earlier, I rehearse the horses. What I'll do is we'll rehearse the scene, obviously, with the actors doing the running the lines, and then before they get on a horse, I make sure I and one of my team has ridden that horse, put it on its mark, so the horse knows what it's doing. And then the horse knows what it's doing, we're halfway. In fact, we did a funny thing, I think it was season 5, and we had a group of guys riding up to River Run in a line again, and all of them were actors, and none of them were that good, but they were fine. And we had the horses right up in the line, and the first time we did it, it was perfect. The horses I wasn't even looking at the actors, I was looking at the horses, they were perfect. And then the second time, one of the actors got a little bit left behind, so the horses came up 4, then 1. And the director came up to me and said, who's in charge of the horses? And I said, well, I'm in charge of the horses. He says, no, but who's in charge of the horses? Why aren't they going in a straight line? And I said to her, I'll just go and get the remote control. And she looked at me, and for a second she thought I was serious. And I said, no, the actors are in charge of the horses. And then she couldn't work it out. She said, well, I thought they were film horses. I said, they are film horses, but you've got to steer them, and you've got to, but then next take, horses were perfectly fine. But that just shows, people say, why are these horses? And I get this all the time. Can the horse just move an inch to its left? I said, no, because it'll move an inch to its left. The horses don't do that. And they said, well, really? And I said, I'll push him over to the left. Oh, perfect, thank you, that's amazing. And then it comes back. Why, the horse has moved. Yeah, of course it's moved. It's not a performing dog, but it's not far off it. But they are brilliant, I must admit, yeah.
And so you did teach them all to fight. What were the special challenges in teaching everybody to fight in the 18th century clothing? Well, yeah,
that was not that. Actually, that's quite freeing. The 18th century, especially the kilts. They were, you got a lot of movement in there. For fighting, I was warned. But no, you've got to think about it. The stuff they're wearing, they actually did sword fight in those times. So they're designed in the 18th century to fight with that clothing. So that's not really been a problem. Getting on and getting off horses in a pair of tight breeches, that's a difficulty for a few actors. But because costume do like to make them very figure-hugging when it comes to Sam, for obvious reasons. But it's not very practical for getting on a horse. So we've had a few rippages in breeches getting on a horse. But no, but fighting-wise, they've all come to it really well. I had a problem with Duncan, who plays Murta, because he didn't like hurting anybody. He was such a gentle soul, and to get that sort of even, he could act it, but physically he couldn't bring himself to, because in case he hurt anybody. And it's you're not going to hurt anybody, Duncan. Really not. And in my stunt room, I've got a stunt rehearsal room, and there's a imprint of Sam Hewen on that in the plasterboard or the dry raw air, and that's from Duncan throwing him there after I told him you're not going to hurt anybody. So Duncan either is very gentle or a psychopath.
Well, we'll have to remind him of that when we see him in January. So he's going to be a guest at another
He'll love that, yeah.
another
Yeah,
event
but-
that is
yeah.
being hosted by the woman sitting right in front. So.
Oh, no, he's a lovely guy. Lovely guy.
Who has been a challenge to work with? Who has been, you mentioned that Sam, you love to work with Sam
Yeah.
because he's so physical and everything, but has anybody been a little bit of a challenge either because of their own personal acting method or their...
Well, I know who you mean. I've had two. I've had Ed, who's been here at Spielers, and Tobias. Now, both of them brilliant at fights, but you had to get into. When I first met Tobias, I thought, I don't know how to deal with this man because he's so intense. But as was Ed Spielers, who plays Stephen Bonnet. But Tobias I very quickly realised that it's acting, and you can go up to him and he can be so focused. And I can say, Tobias, sorry to bother you. And you go, yeah, what is it? And I said, oh, sorry, just go a little bit, just watch. Oh, yeah. And he takes it on board and he puts it into practice. Same with Ed. I mean, I had to do again in a season. I can't remember the season when he cuts the guy's eyes. Now, that fight was brilliant. The guy he fought again, I only had him for a few days. Young lad, really good. Ed, brilliant, but they really go for it. And it was, luckily, I was having a conversation with the ladies on the table earlier on about the swords. We use rubber swords because there's no reason why we would use metal swords, because that's when an accident happens with rubber swords, it's going to hurt. An accident happens with a metal sword, it's going to hurt a lot more. And I know, because we used to use metal swords all the time. It's very rare on a film set now that you have metal swords. They're either wood or rubber. And then what we can do with the rubber swords, as they do down a bit, is we can fix that in post with visual effects and stuff like that. But on that fight, he was so pumped up, and it was a brilliant fight. And then the last shot we have to do is a close-up of him cutting the guy's eyes with the sword. And of course, the sword, it's a knife at this point. It's a rubber knife. And he was so pumped up. He was shaking. He literally couldn't do it. He couldn't keep the sword, because obviously the thing's doing that. And it looks like what it is. And I said, Ed, please, just calm. This is not acting. This is mechanics. They can't even see your face. All I want to do is just calm down. And he goes, yes, go so. I'm calming down. Okay, are you calm? I'm calm. And turn over and I won't say what he was saying because we can't print. Well, I probably could. Yeah, it was the room was blue, and he just psychs himself up. And I was saying, Ed, no, seriously, it's not about you. It's about the sword going through his eyes. Yeah, I know, but it's me who's doing it. I know it's you who's doing it, but in a minute, it won't be you who's doing it. Because, and he calmed himself down, and he did it, and it's an amazing shot and an amazing scene, I think. That whole fight with the prostitutes, and that fight was one of my I really enjoyed that day, and I hope it looked good, because we spent a lot of time with that, and but Ed is great, but a challenge.
Could you take us through the anatomy of a stunt or a fight or something specific, starting with where it comes to you and how it ends up?
Yeah, well, obviously, it starts with me reading the script when it comes through. And a lot of the time, most of the action is put in the script. And we've got some amazing script writers. So the basics of a fight is there. Sometimes I will look at it and think, well, that isn't going to work. For logistical reasons, isn't going to work, I think, also for the actor's ability, or isn't going to work because I think the actor's better than that. So that's how it starts, and then I have a meeting with the director and who's been chosen for that scene, and also the first and the producers, who are often the writers. So I have then we look at it, read it through, and I say, well, look, this is great. I think if he did that, the writers will normally go, oh, that's a much better idea than mine. Or, yes, we can do that and stuff. So that's how it starts. You've got to make it work. Take it from the page to actual reality. But like everything, we've done it so long now, the writers and everything, they all know what we can and can't do. Sometimes I have to tweak a few things, but as a whole, usually what they've written is what I can produce. Then I put the fight together in my head. And when I've got it worked out, then I get a couple of stunt guys, and then we work it out, and then we film it, and then we film it from different angles and stuff, make a little storyboard, show it to the director. The director says, that's absolutely rubbish, or that's fantastic, usually in between the two. And then once he's happy, or she's happy, then we get the actors involved. And then again, we start learning the fight, and then I'll say, is there anything isn't working for you, or that you think you can make better, or you want to do? And invariably they'll say yes, this or that. Particularly, Sam's always got something he wants to do that makes it look, 10 times better. And I think, why didn't I think of that? But so he does that. And then normally from that, then we get everything sorted. We're happy to go. We get on set, and it's pouring down with rain. And they've chosen to do it on a hill like that. And they give them shoes that have got no sole, no grip on them. And they still do it. But we compromise again. So we can spend months, we don't on Outlander, because we haven't got the time, but we can spend weeks rehearsing a particular fight. Then we can turn up on the day, and we have to change it completely. But that's that's when you've got to have plan A, B, C, D, and E, which you do. You have to have as a coordinator anyway, because things are going to go wrong or change. And that happens an awful lot. In fact, I've worked on lots of big movies when I've worked on one movie, we had 17 weeks prep before we started filming, and we hadn't even got a script. So we were making stuff up, because we didn't know what to, we had to do something to show the director. The director saying, that's amazing, that's fantastic, brilliant. We're not going to use it, but that's what and I think sometimes you can have too much prep. We don't have prep, we never had, we're basically into it. As soon as we're filming the first, each block is filmed in 5-week sections, 2 episodes. As soon as we start filming the first episode, 2 episodes, we usually have about 3 to 4 weeks prep. This is brilliant. And after that's happened, as soon as we start filming the first episode, the next block starts prepping. So then we're stretched. The actors, then it's getting the availability for the actors, my availability, and stuff like that. So it becomes tricky then. But that's why it's good. We all know how it's a big team. Everybody knows each other so well now, and everybody knows the compromises we make. And we don't make any compromises in the show. We build them in, because we know that sometimes it's going to rain. We know sometimes that we're not going to have the actor to rehearse a fight for the desired 2 weeks. We get him for half an hour on a Sunday when he's not looking his best, because he's drinking his own whiskey. But no, it doesn't happen. He's a true professional, and he's never given me any of his whiskey either. Although I have asked. But so that's how we start. We start. I start with the script, with the director and the writers, then the actors, and then it works like that.
Very good. And how long does it take? Let's take Trisha Phelan asked, how long does it take to choreograph a fight scene? And let's use specifically to actually maybe choreograph and film the duel between Blackjack and Jamie.
That was a good one, wasn't it? We had a bit of time for that, because we knew how important that was. There was that fight, and obviously we were talking about the duel before, not Culloden, aren't you?
Not Culloden.
No.
The duel.
The duel, yeah. So we had a bit of time with that, and again, 2 very talented physical actors who brought. There's a little bit in that Tobias brought into it, and I've used in any other fight I've done since. I'll never say what it is because I thought of it first. But yeah, so with that, I think it was again the same thing. Let's do a duel, and I remember that script was they duel. We know he gets stabbed in the groin at the end, but we don't know how and why. Never still don't. But we're given carte blanche to do that, and I got the actors involved in that quite early, because they were very invested in that fight. They invested in all the fights, but that one in particular. So they had a lot of time. Well, they had about 2 weeks, and I had probably an hour a day with them for about a week and a half, and then we did that. And again, on the day, it's one thing rehearsing on ground like this in a pair of trainers, but then coming with your footwear and on a wet field next to a river, it can get. But that fight particularly, I thought, was much better than I ever imagined, and very proud of that fight. Very proud of it. Very proud of them and of the two stunt guys that were doubling as well. In fact, I tell a lie. The stunt guys doubled, and they did a big wide shot, and they never used that. They just used the actors on that particular scene.
And then how about, since you did mention it, or ask if that's the one we were talking about, how about Culloden? That one was huge.
Culloden was huge. I just finished work. The director on Culloden came to me and said, look, I want the Battle of the Bastards, which if you don't know what that is, it's a huge battle that was on Game of Thrones. And I just worked on the Battle of the Bastards. And I said, fine, I can give you that. I can give you that. I said to the production, so the director wants the Battle of the Bastards. I worked on that. It had 90 stuntmen and 120 horses. And what can I have? They said you can have 12 horses and 8 stuntmen. So that was my Battle of Culloden. But I don't think again, you're given the parameters. I mean, it's not a big show like that. They don't, the money is spent, we have a lot of money and it's spent very well. But, I think the Battle of Culloden worked out quite well, considering, we have a lot of great extras, essays and extras up in Scotland. We have the Clan Reynolds, who are a local reenactment clan. They're fantastic. And they'll go, they're like clockwork rabbits. They'll go all day long, and they pipe themselves on the set and they pipe themselves off the set, and they look amazing. They are amazing in the background. We were running into these mortars going off, and the stunt guys as well are amazing, and the actors, altogether. I mean, that was quite a long time to work that out. We had a boot camp for all the essays, the extras as well, to learn reactions to getting shot and falling over. And on the day, and I said to the guys, is anybody here? And we had 200 extras. So look, I said, really, I feel bad to ask you this, but I'd like some of you to fall over. Is there anybody here who'd volunteer? And every single one put their hand up. And so I thought, right, okay. Is there anyone here, really, anyone who got a bad back or there's a few, I had a heart operation last week. No, let's not you do it. Oh, but I want to do it, you can't hold a good Scotsman down. But I said, no, please, but they all wanted to do it, it's just, calming them down. So I think that makes my life a lot easier. It's not just the actors and stuntmen. It's essays, and I'm not sure what you call them over here, essays or extras, but the background artists, they're brilliant. They really are, and they make my job. Again, you look at them in the background, and you think, hey, that's an amazing fight. Oh, I'm glad I had nothing to do with that, but that's them. And because they're like these clansmen, they just go at it. They go at it, and they use metal saws, by the way, because we haven't got enough of the rubber one. But they're amazing.
I know safety is paramount.
Yes.
Not only for your actors, but for the horses and the extras and everybody around. Get a lot of people on set.
Yeah.
And here in the States, we recently had an incident with a film, and I think you all know what I'm talking about. And excuse me, I told you I would do this.
You did, you warned me.
Can you talk about, from your point of view, what, especially with firearms, how you make sure that your actors are safe and your crew?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did say, I will mention rust, and that is an anomaly, because you should never, ever have live rounds on a film set. It's unheard of. I think we all know that now. That is so. There's something very wrong there. So I can't. my experience with firearms is vast on a film set. I've fired every gun imaginable. I've fired guns out of window, firing James Bond. And every time on a film set, the armourer, is, sometimes as a stuntman, particularly when you're in the early days, when you're young and you want to get on and do it, you get an armourer going, just check that it's empty, and you go, oh yeah, and they will not do anything unless they've showed you, and they've showed that the barrel is empty, and you are 100%. And I say sometimes it gets a bit, yeah, I know it. No, they make you do it, and sometimes it does happen on a film set. You're in a rush. People are going, but never. Always the first assistant director has always said, "Are they? Check. Is everything safe?" And he will not rush. I've never seen it being rushed at all. On Outlander, obviously we use flintlock rifles. We don't use even as much as the guns on Rust, but we have tests. We basically put paper in there, black powder in there. So you are firing a projectile. You're firing in our case, it's a bit of paper. And what we do is before we do anything, very similar to what we've got here actually on this line here, we'll do a test and we'll fire it to see where the paper lands. Now, when the paper lands, it is a light, but it's like floating tissue paper. It's not, and where the paper lands is where it's safe. But where the paper is dangerous, and it can be dangerous, is about a foot away from the gun. But we know that anything after that is safe. But we do this all the time, and we show the actors, we show everybody. Kat particularly, she's she's very, doesn't like firing guns, and why should she? But she's very. So we have to go through it with her methodically and stuff. Like Sam, the same. They've fired guns overseas lots of times. Both of them have, and we go through the same safety process every time. So I find it very. The reason why it happened on Russ is because obviously there's a live round in the gun. That's like saying there's a Martian landing. That should never happen. Well, Martian should happen maybe, but there's the things that shouldn't ever happen.
Right.
And that is one of them. And that I'll never understand that. I don't think anybody else will understand it. I don't know what. There was a case with Brandon Lee on The Crow many years ago.
Right.
There was a case with an English guy on American TV, shot himself in the head with a blank. It will kill you. A blank will kill you. You put it against your head. The percussion of it will push your skull in. So they are dangerous things, and that's why they have to be taught. So I've never point a gun at a person. Never point a gun.
Right,
and if you're pointing a gun towards a camera operator, they have perspex in front of them, and you're not firing anything at them, but just in case something, a bit of air or grit goes into them. So I don't know what happened, and I don't want to speculate, but it obviously was a total catastrophe.
Have you ever worked on a set where you felt like the safety standards weren't up to your standards? You don't have to name names.
No,
we would
no.
like
It's different. When I first started, in the mid '80s, we did things with. When you see people on Harry Potter getting thrown back by the wizards, they're on what we call the jerk back, and we use what we use now is tech cord, which is basically a rope. And it's got a bit of a give in it, and it doesn't snap. It's got a brake. I can't give you the technical thing for it, but you can hold a car up on it. When I was a stunt guy, we used wire, and we used to pull. I have been pulled from this side of the room to the other side on a bit of wire, and as the wire went through, it ripped a whole line across my face. Oh. I was very brave. But it wasn't like, oh, get an ambulance. It was like, you're right, yeah. Can you do it again? Yeah. And we did a lot of things like that. And I think back now, why did I do that? Why did I do that? But that's what we did. And touch wood. I think so. There's been some nasty accidents, I've seen them. But nowadays, we can't do that. Now, and also, there was a fear factor a little bit. Particularly in the stunt world, and you didn't want to, should I don't know, I'm not sure about this, but I'm not going to say anything because I'll get called a wuss or or troublemaker.
Right.
But now nobody's a troublemaker, but what the beauty of it now is, it's a different industry now. The top coordinators who have been under that regime, and bar none, or maybe bar one, they've been there, and they don't want. Why would they want to hurt anybody? So they've done that. So I mean, I always say, the first thing I always say to if someone's falling over, even just that's falling over, I said to the camp, can you see the mat on the floor? No, I can't. We'll put a mat down there then, because it's simple. It's simple stuff like that. But so unsafe, no. Painful, yes. I've done things. Having said that, I spent more of my life falling off horses because I'm stupid, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, everybody says, "Oh, how do you make that safe?" You can't make it safe. What you can do is learn how to fall and learn to get. But it's falling off a horse. It's going to hurt,
Right.
And in a way, stuntmen like that a little bit. Nothing better than going home with a bruise. Oh, how'd you get that? Oh, you never guess what happened. You wouldn't believe it. Yeah, my wife won't talk to me about work. She says, "Leave that at work. I'm not interested." And so that's a bit disappointment in my life.
What has been your favorite stunt to do or to plan or to work on? Both for whether it was Outlander or something else.
You stick to Outlander. I mean, at Preston Pans, remember that battle there? We did. This is my proud. What we did. Historically, it was in the fog, and we had all this sort of discussions how to do this. We had all these smoke machines and what they call lay flats, which are tubes filled with smoke, and we had the field, and the smoke would just disappear. And I said very early on, why don't we put it in a marquee, in a tent? And they said, no, that's not going to happen, is it? That's dangerous. I said, well, not really, because we can get big tents, and put, it was about the horses. The horses will be fine in it. No, we don't think that's a good idea. Anyway, they kept trying with this wind machines and the smoke machines, couldn't work. And then the week before we were going to film it, they built a marquee, and we filled this marquee full of smoke. And it was amazing. Because we had 8 stuntmen. We had 4 horses. But the battle, I think, is particularly the run at the beginning of it, when Jamie runs into the guy I'm not sure if you know, he's leaning on his gun, and that is such an emotive image, I think. And I was very proud because I did that. That whole idea, all the stunts on there, everything on that was my idea. And but one of the only thing I can't take credit for, and I think it's the greatest moment, is little Fergus, who, when now bless him, the actor who played Fergus.
Was this Roman the younger child?
Roman the younger child, lovely guy, very French. I can say that because I'm English, very very French. Wouldn't listen to a word. He's one of these things. He just you tell him one thing and he'd do the other. I said, and I said, whatever you do, because we followed his story, didn't we, to that thing. Get up, just stand still, because there's a lot going on around you. Nobody will hit you if you stay still. And of course, he gets up and he moves, and he gets hit by one stunt guy, and it's such a great shot. Because it just, and he doesn't fall. He gets hit. And he looks, not a big hole, and not a big hit. But it's the best thing I've ever done.
Well, I think we're getting toward the end.
Good. Are we having the whiskey now? Is it?
I wish.
Oh no.
We're going to do. So you guys have been sitting for a long time, right? Okay. We're going to get you up. And we're going to get you down, and we're going to get you up and get you down. So why don't we stand up, too?
Oh, yes.
So everybody stay in your seats, but push your chairs back a little bit so you can get up and get down.
You just saw a very old stuntman get out of a chair then. That's how they do it. And he can't move for a while because my knees are seized up.
We're going to do a lightning round. I'm going to ask Dom a series of this or that questions. Everybody sit because you're not up yet, so everybody sit. If you agree with his, so you have to listen to him. If you agree with him, you're up. If you don't agree, you're down. So if you're up, and then the next question you don't agree, you're sitting down. So we're going to do this really fast, okay? So ready?
Oh, yes.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Horses or humans?
Horses.
Swords or muskets?
Swords.
Automatic or manual transmission?
Oh, automatic.
Pierce Brosnan or Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig.
Marvel or DC?
Oh, Marvel.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. What do they win?
They win their legs back because they've been sitting so long. Studio or location?
A location.
Trousers or kilt?
Trousers.
Sam's Sassenach whiskey or Cat's Forget-Me-Not gin?
Or the gin. Oh, gin, yeah, gin going. No, not I, but it sounds good.
Midgies or rain?
Oh, God. They come hand in hand, really. Rain.
Okay. Dragonflies or bees?
Oh, I like bees. Bees.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, Outlander or anything else?
Oh, it's got to be Outlander, I'm afraid. No.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for sitting through that. That was